Okay, so how would you like it if your time clock never ended? If it was possible that you could live a long, healthy life? Well, scientists are on the path of making this fictional idea to a reality. But what we first need to understand is the levels of organization. Our bodies consist of billions and billions of cells that are constantly dividing every second, give or take. We have the chemical level, which is the smallest component, like an atom. Then we have cellular, then we have tissue, organ levels, organ systems, and then you. And the dividing every day and every second is the process called mitosis we're all familiar with. What happens during mitosis? Well, during mitosis, it goes through 6 different phases, dividing of the somatic cells, which is basically like our organ cells, our skin cells, and etc. During that process, replication of chromosomes are being done within the nucleus, and the result of this process would be a product of 2 daughter cells. It goes through interphase, prophase, monophase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. But why do we age if our cells are consistently replicating? Well, during mitosis, our chromosomes are being replicated, and at the end of these chromosomes are something called telomeres. Telomeres are non-codon structures that kind of preserve the information within our chromosomes. And with every division, you can see your telomeres are getting shorter and shorter, which eventually leads to not being able to divide anymore, which is why your organs fail, or you're getting older, your skin's getting older because you're not able to produce enough cells. And there was a doctor named Sandra Hunter, and she said, "None of us are spared from physical aging. It is the process that leads to a loss of adaptability and function and eventually death." So why do we physically age? More succinctly, why do our hair become gray, our muscles grow weak, and our memory fail? Ultimately, the answer to these questions involves cell death that eventually leads to system malfunction and a whole body death. But what are telomeres? The possibility to immortality. And I have a video by the person named Elizabeth Blackburn. She was the one who discovered telomeres.
Inside a human cell is the nucleus. Inside the nucleus are 23 pairs of chromosomes. These are long threads of DNA carrying the genetic information. Right at the ends of the chromosomes are special stretches of DNA called telomeres. They are known to play a crucial role protecting the ends of DNA.
So we kind of think of this like the tip at the end of the shoelace, because if you don't have that tip, then the end of your shoelace frays away very quickly. You know, your shoelace won't work properly if it doesn't have a tip. And it's like the end of a chromosome, the end of a DNA. If it doesn't have an intact tip on it, the telomere, it too will fray away.
When a cell is replicating, it can't copy its DNA all the way to the end, and so telomeres shorten with each replication. If telomeres get critically short, the cell can malfunction and die.
If you don't have caps on the end of a chromosome, then the ends become very sticky. It's almost like the shoelace ends become tied together, and this messes up the genetic material. This can have disastrous consequences for cells. A little bit like if your ends of your shoelaces are tied together, you're going to trip up and fall.
Liz studied tiny single-celled creatures found in ponds, called Tetrahymena. They have enormous numbers of small chromosomes. She carefully determined the structure and makeup of their telomeres. Then she noticed something odd.
Something puzzling was happening at the ends of the DNA, the very short chromosomes in Tetrahymena, and that was that DNA was getting added on to the ends of these chromosomes, and this was not anything that anybody expected DNA to do.
Something was adding new DNA to the ends of the chromosomes. The telomeres were not wearing down. and so the cells could replicate endlessly. They were, in effect, immortal.
We started to think there must be some new process that nobody had ever heard of before. It wasn't in the textbooks and wasn't anything that people had described before for DNA, and yet it had to be something to explain what it was we kept on seeing. And so I wanted to hunt this down.
Okay, so that was Elizabeth Blackburn. She and Jack Sixstacks discovered the telomeres back in 1978. And then in 2009, Blackburn and Carroll discovered telomerase, which is basically the enzymes that produce telomeres. Oh. Okay. In 2009, they won the Nobel Prize, and that's Elizabeth, Jack, and Carroll. Besides the tetrahymena experiment, there was also an experiment led by Ronald, and he was a cancer geneticist. And basically, the experiment that he used was he had a group of mice, and they were older age, and with one group, he injected them with telomerase, which is the enzyme that creates them. And what he noticed was the mice that were injected with telomerase, their skin grew back, their fur grew back, they were pretty much replenished, like brand new, like mice that like they never aged. And the ones that he didn't inject, you see that their fur was falling off, their brains were at 75%, which is at Alzheimer's level, and they were just suffering from aging. And what he realized is that he could reverse the aging process with the help of telomerase. And that's the chromosomes over there, and then the yellow is the telomerase at the end, the telomeres at the end of the chromosomes. But telomerases can be the answer to cancers and other diseases because you can replenish healthy cells while the cancer cells die or whatever disease it might be. But scientists say we still have a while before we can go to move from lab animals to humans, let's say. And there's cons to it. Some scientists believe that too many telomerase can lead to cell replication, and too much cell replication and out of control and producing a lot of tumors. And you can extend your telomerase and not age as quickly if you have a healthy diet. Like magnesium is good for repairing DNA, and zinc is good for binding your DNA together. And that's the natural way you can live a long, healthier life.